Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Like-Minded Creators Podcast. This is our inaugural show. We're all a little bit nervous here. My name is Chris Hamill, and I am an audio engineer with 15 years of experience working with bands and producing their records. I also do front of house at various local music venues, most notably Dingbats in Clifton, New Jersey. And I have my two tag team partners right here. Let you guys put yourselves over, introduce yourselves.
How we doing out there? My name is Greg Talfayon. I'm a musician, producer, artist. Just been in the scene for over 20 years. Been playing. I just fucked up my whole thing too because I can't even have it straight. But the truth is, yeah. No, I'm a 40-year-old musician that has been playing in the scene for many years, and it's here to fucking add a breath of experience and just kind of show you what not to do, how to get along with people, make the best of each opportunity you have. And I'm happy to do that.
And my other tag team partner over here.
And my name's Zaki Ali. I am an audio engineer as well, 15 plus years experience. Also a multi-instrumentalist. I've played with over 30 bands at this point. But yeah, I'm excited to be here and share my experiences and, help guide the way for future generations.
Well, together we are like-minded creators, and we basically came together out of necessity because there's really not a YouTube channel or any outlet out there that is covering every basis of a band's journey from pre-production to studio to live sound etiquette, which is our topic tonight, guys. So we got some things to say for our inaugural show. But basically, if you guys are a band or you're a somewhat experienced band, you're looking to take your game up to the next level, that's kind of where we all come together with this. I met Zaki through my tenure at Bergen County College, and we got assigned a project together, and I heard him play drums, guitar, literally every instrument under the rainbow, and he was a phenomenal musician, and one of the only times I recorded a bass player who actually kept himself in time, so I knew he had some chops there. And Greg is a phenomenal drummer as well. He can actually count past 4, sometimes up to 16, so he's a really solid drummer, and I've worked with these guys on various projects, and that's how like-minded creators get together. But now that we're done fluffing our own selves here, let's get to the first topic at hand. And it's a topic that a lot of people gloss over, actually, when you're in bands and when you're working with musicians in general, and that's stage etiquette. Yeah. How you guys present yourselves to the venue, how you proceed yourselves with showing up to a venue, how you perform, and for me, from the Soundguy perspective, how you treat the bands, because all three of us have experiences where the sound guys are just not there to do their jobs. And I'll throw myself under the bus right there too for sound guys. I'm going to throw a lot of sound guys here under the bus. There's a lot of etiquette that we all have to discuss with how to bridge the gap between sound guy and musicians, because the stigma is sound guys are just failed musicians who just couldn't hack it. Yeah, that's the stigma here.
I wouldn't think of that much. I see that is a stigma, but conversely, what sound guys have to deal with on top of that as well, there's a whole other side to that, and we can give you that way to actually have some etiquette before you walk into a gig, to kind of have some foresight. They are grumpy people for the most part.
Right. They are grumpy people, but
they should be respected.
I wear a mask very well, guys.
This is a very important discussion. Yeah. First of all, to establish the fact, the relationship between a band and the sound guy, this is a very delicate relationship, right? So there's a lot of factors involved here when you're showing up.
You want it to sound good, right?
Yeah, absolutely. A sound guy, essentially, from a band's perspective, has to be your best friend, because if you do something to mess with the sound guy, you're just not going to sound good. And if you don't sound good, then everyone watching you is not going to enjoy your performance and show. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot, first of all, when you're showing up, always introduce yourselves and always make a good...
Shake the hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Show
and,
face.
Get on the sound guy's good side.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, then there's the whole, bringing in the gear, what type of gear you're using.
Yep.
I don't know
whether you're using the house kit, where that's a thing.
There's as another stigma,
right? Well, there's a lot of variables here, right? So you're going in for the first time. You're going to probably want to bring your drum kit. You play as a drummer, right? You play your own kit. I want to play my own kit, but generally, a lot of times you get the situation where you're going to have to play the house kit, or if you do bring your kit and you want to use it, it's not the best for the whole show because there's other bands that need to set up their kit now, and that just takes time away from setup. So if we can consolidate that and you can actually use the house kit, there's a lot of benefits to it. But there's also, for a drummer, it kind of sucks because you're not getting what you're used to having. So that may fuck with your playing a little bit, but it shouldn't. If you're a good drummer, you should be able to adapt, and that's a whole other subject. But that's what you got to be able to do, and be nice with the guy because he's trying to save time and get the show going properly.
So at the venue where I work at, and any venue, any respectful venue, I think we can all agree that any respectful venue worth their time and effort has these things that they send to bands. Yeah. They have a list of house gear, like you said, that if the venue has any house gear, they let the bands know so they can coordinate with themselves and bring whatever gear that they need. For instance, dingbats, we have a kick drum, we have 2 rack toms and a floor tom. It's a typical 4-piece kit with your snare that's 5. So we tell every band that comes there, bring your own snare drum, bring your own pedals, and bring your own cymbals and stands. And that's all the drummers have to worry about. It's great, but sometimes we get a lot of drummers that come in there like, I need a 1,000,000-piece tom kit where I'm only going to play the one tom once throughout the whole set, and I insist on having everything mic'd. So unfortunately, not everyone is in Dream Theater and can have a 1,000,000-piece kit and pull it off right, but a venue will, if they're worth their time to play at, a venue will send out a house gear list, and that includes any drums, guitar cabs, any pieces of gear that the house has, and it should be in working order. I think that goes without saying. If you have house gear, if you're a venue, you need to make sure that your shit's working correctly.
Yeah, sure.
But I want to rewind back to even just showing up. I think a lot of bands have no clue as to what a call time is, a load-in time. A lot of bands that show up like 5 minutes before they're supposed to be on the stage even. I've had a lot of experiences with bands that have shown up 15 minutes before they're supposed to hit the stage. And the venue there was a miscommunication with the band that misread the email that was sent. Because again, any venue that says, hey, load-in time is this is when the band is supposed to arrive at the venue. And me as a sound guy, I'm supposed to greet you guys in saying, hey guys, hey, the Eminon band, we don't know who you are, whatever. Like Eminon band, thanks for coming to Dingbats. Thank you guys for playing tonight. What gear do you need and what special inputs do you have? That's the first thing I say to any band that comes in, because everyone plays backing tracks. A lot of bands don't play with just cabs and amps.
Not anymore.
So my first thing I say is, hey, welcome. I'm Chris. I'm running sound tonight. What special inputs do you guys have, and do you have any of your own microphones? Because if you're going to use our beat-up Shure SM58s, which every venue does, mine included, I want to make sure that I can switch out the microphones in time to make sure you can have your microphone there ready to go and clicked in. So that's just a first impression. Like, hey, this band shows up on time. They're loading in correctly. They know their worth, and they know like how to load up on stage. And by contrast with the band, if they want to come in and their first impression with the sound guy is he's a cantankerous old man and doesn't know what he's talking about, and it's just like he doesn't want to be there. We've all encountered sound guys with that.
Well,
that's just a first impression goes a long way with venues and bands.
I think so.
Definitely. I mean, to like backtrack a little bit and like talk about the same process from the artist's perspective for a second. I mean, you're a band showing up to a venue, and you have times you have to be there. You have times. Specific times designated for setup, getting on stage within a certain amount of time, breaking down, getting off. You don't want to delay the show. That's the first bad impression you could leave on a promoter, on the venue, on a sound guy, everyone working the event, essentially. People don't want to be there late. That's a big thing. So then, on top of that, you're talking about gear, right? And you mentioned that a venue should be up to date with their house kit and everything. Now, there's also like this... there's memes all over the internet about the house drum kit, so venues you show up at and they have, different heads all damaged and 2 pieces
Logs
and
are missing.
Exactly. So now from the artist's perspective, as a drummer, like showing up to a venue, it's a really, really important thing. I don't care if I'm playing a house kit. I always make sure I bring my entire drum kit, every single piece of it, and have it nice and organized in case there's something missing, right? You don't want to be the guy going to other bands asking to borrow gear. It's always a bad...
That's a whole other topic that's important too, because it's, you should just bring your
or asking the sound guy for extra things while they're setting up for more important things. So, just having the kit there is one thing. Now, your setup time on your kit, like practicing setting up your drum kit quickly, like...
key thing.
I know sound guys always hate this when I've said it in the past, but obviously, if it's possible, I'd love to use my whole kit.
Right.
And to be honest, I have my drum kit set up on a rack system.
Yeah.
So I'll take my time setting up backstage, and when it comes time to set up, if I were to set up my whole drum kit, I would remove the kick drum, place down my kick drum,
right.
just place the rack on top of it, and place 2 cymbal stands, and the
more
entire
efficient.
kit is set up. Right. I could do that in 3-4 minutes. You know what I mean? Easy. However, the sound guy will have to change the microphones, and a lot of times they don't put the faith in you thinking that you're actually able to move that quickly, right? So when you do, you don't want to argue with the sound guy. You want to make sure that you're using the house drum kit and establish that from earlier on. If you know you're using the house kit, just know exactly what pieces you want to bring onto the stage and just make it a quick transition.
Yep.
The sound guy doesn't have to move the mics. Yep. The show runs on time. Everybody's happy. You sound good.
That's one of the you went over a very fine point here. Sound guys, we absolutely detest bands who delay shows. Like we cannot stand bands, and sorry, I know you two are drummers, but it's always drummers that end up doing.
You gotta learn how to work
drummers
with the
can
whole
also you can
show.
do this too. If you want to use your kit that bad, you let the other bands use it as well.
Yeah,
if you're
be open to that.
That's a way to do it. I mean, if you don't mind people beating up on your heads. Usually if it's the shells and you ask them to bring the breakables, which are the stands, the cymbals, the double bass pedal, the snare drum, those things, if you bring those most of the time, you're always going to be okay. But if you want to use your own drum set, we've done it. I've done it many times. I want to use my own drum set. And also, you think you want to play a huge fucking drum set, but setting that shit up all the time and being efficient really isn't efficient. So if you're a really efficient musician, I would actually implore you to minimalize what you have so you could set it up faster. Like literally, I used to have a big drum set. Now I have like 3 toms, and it's just perfectly set up.
It's
and
just
it takes me
something
15 minutes. I'm perfect.
That happens, I feel like, with age. Like
You
the
don't
more you
wanna
mature
drag
as a
more
drummer,
equipment.
you bring the essentials, and my drum kit downsized too.
As you guys get older too, like I see bands that come in and bring their own drum set, their own backline, and they play for an hour and a half straight. Even just getting up and going to the bathroom, I'm out of breath. So like I don't know how you guys do this, but like when I see a band go on stage and they kill it for an hour and a half, and they're loading up their gear and they're loading off the stage and bringing their entire IEM rigs off the stage, I'm like, how do you guys do that? Like I'm jealous of how much energy you guys have.
They practice. That's why. It's if you're
a
plug and play band. If you're really a plug and play band like that, you can go in. You have everything set. You're good. Boom, boom, boom. You unplug. That's what you want to do. That's what you want.
But it goes back to what you said. Like the efficiency is key. I think that's like the golden rule for like load in time, load outs. Is if you guys are efficient, sound guys, we won't care if you guys bring your own entire backline with you, as long as you're efficient and you
use it.
And you respect the fact that there's about 15-20 minutes tops of changeover before you guys are going on, because otherwise it depends on the sound guy. If you guys drew a huge crowd, we are very forgiving with what time you go on, what time you get off the stage. But if you guys are not drawing that much of a crowd there, and it's a pretty dead show anyway, we've all experienced these dead shows before.
Yeah.
I'm going to be really strict. I'm personally going to be really strict with your time. If you're taking 10 minutes extra, guys, you got to cut a song from your set. I don't really care if you have your song loaded up in your rack. You have to cut a song.
You got to put the ego aside a lot too. It's like a team effort. And then the other thing is the whole prerequisite before even going to the show. Somebody in the band should know what's going on to make everybody else alert. I'm even guilty of it. I'm one of those people that just live in my life. We're all living our lives, but like you should make it a priority. If you know you have a show, make sure you have that email. Make sure you know what they want you to know, and make sure you're prepared. And you go in, and that will set up the tone for your other shows that you're getting. And you're gonna have grumpy sound guys. It's gonna happen. I was gonna ask you this. Can you let's give some experience? Give me some experiences of somebody that just completely disrespected you, and I'm thinking of one in particular.
Okay, so I'm not going to name the guy. You don't name the guy.
No names.
But there is a guy who hosted an entire black metal festival.
Right.
And look, regardless of what genre of music you guys play, the fact still remains: you are setting up your instruments on stage, you're communicating with the sound guy, and no matter how many inputs we mix or how many inputs you provide for us, we're all on the same page here. We want to make sure you guys get over to PA and you can hear yourselves just fine. That is our job. Yeah. And any sound guy worth a damn is going to make sure that the bands can at least hear themselves on stage, right?
Yeah.
That being said, there is one guy who had an all-inclusive, just giving me a left and right master output from his mixer. He had his own backing tracks, his own like bass connected to what looks like a lesser elementary version of this mixer we have over here recording the set. Like one of those like little Mackie mixers that like, you buy for like $60 at Guitar Center. He had one of these.
Right.
And as a sound guy, I said to him, look, let me at least hear your backing tracks.
Oh, yeah.
No, you don't need to hear that.
Oh, what do you mean?
Oh, okay. Can I at least hear your bass? Sure enough, it sounded like muffled garbage. So I'm like, all right, I can at least EQ this and make it somewhat passable. Can I hear your bass, your backing track, and your vocal mixed together? Because he had vocal processing effects all coming to me, and I couldn't control the delay and effects or whatever. And he said, just flat out said no. Like, it just gave me a crappy attitude the entire time. Like, I don't need to hear it because it was his show, and therefore we're all at the pleasure of seeing him perform.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, whatever. Right before he's supposed to go on, he says, wait a minute, I got to get my smoke machine. So he goes backstage. Now, Dingbats has a really good smoke machine that it was having the perfect amount of smoke all show.
Right.
And this guy wanted to go backstage, get his commercial grade gigantic smoke machine, brought it on stage, and waited another 5 to 10 minutes for it to warm up before he went on.
Should have been warming up.
10 minutes.
So I'm like, all right, whatever, guy. Like, he was giving me a piss poor attitude all day.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, if he happens to see this and starts flaming me, to be fair, I was grumpy this show as well because prior to him, there were 7 other bands. And 4 of them had language barriers. None of them spoke English or couldn't speak English nicely.
Sure.
I can't speak English nice either. But it was just it was a frustrated day where it was like 2 of the bands had one of these like, you know, send me nothing but a left and right output, and their sound was crap. So any band that gives me a left and right output most of the time will sound like crap. Let me do my job, but that's just I digress.
No, but that's a good point. Let you do your job.
He goes on, and sure enough, it sounds like inaudible noise, and he was just like he was screaming nonsense. I didn't even know what he was screaming.
Right.
So his set ends. He's 15 minutes over his set now, and he says, "Do you guys want one more?" And I go on the monitors loud enough so the whole room can hear me. No, you don't have any time left. He looked at me, shrugged, gave a little smirk on his face, and went into an encore. So I'm like, all right, guy. So so this is when I one of the very rare moments where I let like a band know on stage where I'm losing my cool here. Right. The next band that went on was the headliner. They had 2 guitarists, a bass player, but they had no backing tracks. They were just straight up analog instruments. Okay. And I made it very clear to say to them, I'm sorry you guys are going on late. This asshole disrespected you in this whole show by going late.
All right.
Like, I'm sorry you guys are going on this late, because by this point, a lot of people left. Yeah. Mostly because he sucked and he killed the crowd. Right. But again, this goes back to what we were saying here. Like, you need to be...
Don't suck.
You need... it's not that you don't suck, because I have bands coming... I have bands that play all the time that are amateur, like they're just starting out, and like
that's the worst experience.
This guy just had a chip on his shoulder. He had an ego and an attitude, and he was just pissy the entire time to work with. So never again.
Yeah, right. So then you have a bad now that venue has a bad taste in their mouth, and you're not going to be able to get other gigs.
Important points. Like, there were so many important points brought up within that story alone. You know, like you think about all the factors that are involved and leading up to that moment to get Chris to that level with him, you know, like, but you know, you think about it from a band perspective. We talked about drums, like setting up the drums quickly and having that, like, if you have backing tracks, know your backing tracks set up, and if it works and how many outputs you're giving, you want to minimize that essentially for the sound guy. Make sure it's a mono signal, you know, like I've been hearing about this, the Roland SPD-1 wave sampler. Yeah, basically, you know, you could upload click tracks, you could upload backing tracks. You don't have to bring an interface computer. Just send it all to front of house. You gotta assign, you know, like rehearse who is in charge of, you know, like delegate who's in charge of setting up what when you go on stage. You don't want the drummer necessarily setting up the backing tracks because he has to set up 20 pieces right now, you know.
Correct.
Like, so like you have the guitar player plug in their amp, have their effects pedals, loops, effects loops set up, make sure they have all their cables wrapped up and ready to go before your setup time actually starts.
Or have the lead singer do something other than
Right.
shut
I was
up.
gonna say, what is the lead singer ever doing?
Can't let the egos get in the way.
Yeah, but they do.
So-
If your band has a lead singer and that's all he or she does, they note to from a Soundguys perspective, feeling bad for the rest of the band. And I'm pretty sure two guys here who have experience with a lot of bands.
Absolutely.
If you have a lead singer that is just a vocalist and that's it with no instruments, it would speak volume if they helped anybody load in gear and load out gear, especially drummers if you're coming in with your own kit.
Yeah, and they don't mostly.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
just like known.
it,
like
it
a
kind
girl
of
thing.
is. You just have to kind of.
The memes exist for a reason.
Yeah.
guys.
The whole reason I said delegate beforehand is you should be aware of if that's going to be the situation when you get to the venue. So no weird resentment or awkward situation happens with the sound guy, with the promoter, with the whole people at the show.
Sound guy's going to complain to the promoter. The promoter's going to complain to us.
Right.
He's not going to really talk to us. He's going to get in between us, and then it's going to be like, yo, that guy's like, you guys, he's pissed off at you, and you're not. It's like, yo, that guy's pissed off, and you're creating drama. It's not necessary. Then somebody goes out and then gets a knife, and they fucking say, I'm going to shank you. It's not
Now I think we're all in agreement here because we're all sort of making light and making fun of a bunch of diva bands and diva sound guys. If a sound guy is being he can't be inconvenienced to get an extra microphone out. I mean, come on, that's totally come on, guys, do your job, and help accommodate the
and
band.
that will happen too, though. I mean,
yes,
Absolutely.
in which case,
I'm
I
sure
say
you
this,
have a story. I know I have a story for that.
Sure.
Oh yeah, please. I told my story.
I mean, I could backtrack on so many different stories, but there's if I just had to list one, we're talking about maybe 10, 12 years ago at this point. I was playing with a band, and we get to the venue, and of course, the sound guy did not want to be there. I had seen some of the previous bands, and it sounded great. I mean, he was doing his job, but just terrible attitude, did not want to be there.
Wow.
And I was like, fine, this guy's got an attitude, whatever. My guitar player, on the other hand, just, I don't know, they rubbed off wrong on each other, and it was just a bad situation.
Your guitar player and the sound guy. Just boy.
And I just knew, I was like, all right, hopefully it doesn't escalate too much, whatever. And of course,
what was going on? What was your guitar player and the sound guy?
I mean, we're talking so long ago. I just remember that there was an altercation where it came down to threatening and it just got out of hand, completely out of hand. The whole thing is going back to the same point of be nice to the sound guy, even if you're not getting along, just expect the worst and know that, that might be an issue. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, everything sounded great from our perspective, at least, the show went on and we were on time and everything. So I think it kind of blew over, but we just kept them away from each other, my guitar player and the sound guy, and
I had something similar, but we were playing a big show. It was a big show, and
Festival.
It was like a Sunday show. It was a Saturday, but it was 5-6 bands, big bands, Hatebreed.
So this is in the thousands capacity for this venue.
It was at capacity, so that's part of the problem. So the sound guy was somebody that I knew through the scene, and he's the guy who's working the soundboard, which is a great gig because it was a great venue, and I'm not going to name the venue because I don't want to put myself in this conversation in trouble, so we can actually use this. But it was a great venue, and I was pumped, and we worked really hard, and we were pumped, and he was kind of like a hater, right?
The sound guys.
So you might know the sound guy in life, but so he already, and then his girl, he was talking crap about us to his girlfriend who worked there as well. And my, guitar player was getting drinks, and he drinks a lot. At the time, he was drinking more than he should have. But he ended up I guess he didn't tip her enough or something like that. And she basically got really mad at him and went to punch him in the face. So, because he called her something he shouldn't have. So this is what you shouldn't do, okay? No matter what. I know you may have a day job and you go there and you have money and you could go drink and have fun and enjoy yourself. That's great. You worked hard to get there, but be nice to the people that are there. Even if you think even if you know them, just be nice to them, because what happened was our set ended up sounding like shit because he was the sound guy And we got banned from that place because of that event. I had to call the promoter or the actual club and beg them to not let us not come back.
And this was the Soundguy's fault, right? Like this whole
he was basically a hater, yeah. So like she was treated.
That's not
bad.
fair.
So but like
can't be
no, that ain't fair.
But you know people, and you're gonna see them again. So like just understand, like I couldn't do anything really about it, but I handled myself in a professional manner. My guitarist didn't. But like he ruined it for us, and if it wasn't for me going to call the club back up and apologizing, we would have never been able to play there again. Which is a great place to play. It's probably one of the best places to play, and you don't want to mess that up. So don't let your ego get in the way.
In this day and age with social media and how information and word spreads like wildfire, like even before Twitter, Facebook, or X, whatever the hell it's
People
called
know
now.
each other. They talk.
Every musician, by and large, knows every musician in the local scene. So like no matter how many bands, like 50 million bands Zach's played in, or like 500 bands that Greg's played in, everyone knows everybody at some point. Like if you either don't know someone, you guys know someone who knows someone who knows someone.
Sure.
Right.
And if you have a bad experience at a venue, that will just destroy the reputation of a venue right there if the sound guy's grumpy and just an unprofessional asshole to you. So like if you guys are all saying, as much as I appreciate you guys saying that you be nice to the sound guy, yes, be professional to the sound guy, even if he or she is is grumpy. Everyone can have a bad day. Like we all realize that everyone can have a bad day.
But don't take that shit out on me.
Don't take it out on the bands and sound guys. Like if you don't want to be there, don't you realize that if a band has a bad experience there, you are the first line of defense for the reputation of that venue.
That's true.
Yep.
Like there are venues that will screw bands out of their merch money. There are bands that will like lie to bands, and there are venues that will lie to bands that will say, "Oh yeah, you're going on here and here. We have like 200 people come in. There's like 20 that actually show up." Like venues will lie to bands, but that's not on the sound guy. I've had bands before at other venues I've worked at say, "You know what? You made this experience playing here a whole lot better than it would have been if you were just an asshole to us." So like a good sound guy and getting the sound right on stage can make or break whether a band wants to play there again. And again, if a band's getting screwed over in other ways by a venue, first off, completely wrong. But like if a band is having a bad experience in any other category as far as like, you know, what it's like being playing at this venue, a good sound goes a long way. So, I mean, just bridge the gap, guys. We're all on the same team here, from sound guys to musicians. We're all on the same page to just make sure the show goes over smoothly.
Just be prepared. Like, that's the best thing, and it will carry over in everything else we're going to cover anyway. You're prepared for this. You're going to be prepared for pre-production, for going to the studio. You're going to be prepared with a release plan for your songs. You're going to be prepared. That's just the most important part, and it starts with playing out. So just set the tone. For
those of you in bands, you should sit down with your bands, have these conversations, you know, talk about these things, be open with each other, and, you know, break that barrier of miscommunication or whatever it is.
And communication's the key to getting it done.
Let's start this over again. Let's start this over again, because this isn't the fluff my balls show. So
no, but you got to edify. You got to edify a little bit.
No. You could say we can go into how we all met.
But this is how I met you.
We can, but like, sell yourself, asshole.
All right. Okay. That should be on the podcast. This should just keep
There's
rolling
a blooper.
right now.
All right, let's start
Bloopers.
again. Let's start again. 3, 2, 1.